Vanakkam. Hello friends. We are returning to the rule of the early Cheras after a long gap. In episode 80, we saw about two of the fifth generation of the early Chera rulers, Adugotpattu Cheraladan and Idancheral Irumburai. They ruled between 75 and 100 Common Era according to the genealogy table given by K.N. Sivarajapillai in his The Chronology of the Early Tamils. While Adugotpattu Cheraladan was a descendant of the Chera line from Anduvancheral, Idancheral Irumburai was a descendant of the Chera line of Udiyancheral. Padittripattu, one of the Pathupattu works, being a major source of history to know about the early Cheras, we have seen about its compilation of 10 cantos with 10 stanzas in every canto singing the praise of one particular Chera ruler. K.N. Sivarajapillai shows how the compilation of the cantos were not done in an arbitrary fashion but followed a particular order, places the descendants of Udiyancheral in even numbered cantos from 2 to 8 and the descendants of Anduvancheral in the odd numbered cantos 3, 5, 7 and 9, with the first and 10th cantos having been lost to us forever. The double line of Chera kings comes to an end with this generation, and from the next generation, the two Chera lines merge into one, and in the sixth generation, ruling between 100 and 125 Common Era, comes the Chera ruler Kuttuvan Kodai. KNS refers to the single poem in praise of this king in the Purananuru, sung by Konattu Erichalur Madalan Madurai Kumaranar. This poem, titled Elidum Kadidum, the easy and the difficult, begins, Yengon irunda Kambalai Moodur, Udayor Pola Idayindru Kurigi, Semmal Nalavai Annandu Puhudal, Yemmana Valkai Iravalarku Edide. On what is easy, the poem goes, in the ancient uproarious town where my king rules, it is very easy for bards like us to enter his court and gain his audience at any time. So what is difficult? Oh, it is very difficult for an enemy king to enter the country ruled by Kodai. துப்பெதிர்ந்து எழுந்த நெடுமொழி மன்னர் நினைக்கும் காலை பாசிலை தொடுத்த உவலை கண்ணி மாசுன் உடுக்கை மடிவாய் இடையன் சிறுதலை ஆயமொடு குறுகல் செல்ல புலிதொஞ்சு வியன்புலத்து அற்றே வலிதொஞ்சு தடக்கை அவனுடை நாடே. And those mighty kings who rise up in strength against our Lord, they are akin to a shepherd boy who in his soiled clothes and a dirty garland would dare to go with his goats to the place wherein resides the mighty tiger. With this poem only giving generic information about the rule as well as the generosity of this king, KNS points out that there is nothing further to add to Kuttuvan Kodai. However, in his book on the history of the Cheras, Seramannar Varalaru, Avvai Duraisamy Pillai gives interesting information about Kodai. He mentions how Kodai represented an ancient clan who ruled from the regions of Kudanadu. Now this Kudanadu bordering the Kudanadu that is there in today's Karnataka, evidence of these regions being under the rule of Kodai clan can be found in the several places carrying such names as Kodai Chirai, Kodai Kurichi, Kodai Cheri, Kokodai Mangalam, and even a river by the name Kodai Aru in these regions, points out Duraisamy Pillai. In the post-Sangam literary work of Silappadigaram, the author mentions a minister to the fictional Chera king Seran Sengutuvan, Villavan Kodai, again a representative of the Kodai clan. Duraisamy Pillai further points out two interesting poems in Ahananuru where the king Kodai is mentioned in passing reference. In an Ahananuru poem sung by Karuvur Kannambalanar, the setting is such that the heroine has eloped with the hero. On finding this out, the mother of the heroine tells the foster mother, "Oh, she has deserted us and run off with him. In the scorching heat of peak summer, they would be going through the treacherous dry forest lands wherein the robbers will be sitting perched on the tall yamaram, the ya tree, ready to pounce on innocent passers-by. ஒளிருவேல் கோதை ஓம்பிக் காக்கும் வஞ்சியன்ன என் வளநகர் விளங்க இனிதினென் புணர்க்குவென் மாதோ. Alas, if only I had known about her strong intent, I would have united them in marriage in my rich house, that is like Vanji city, protected by the shining spears of Chera king Kodai. Vanji was the capital of Kuttanadu, and this Agam poem establishes that these regions were under the rule of Kuttuvan Kodai. In yet another interesting Agam poem sung by Kanakayanar Mahanar Nakiranar, the colophon gives the title of the poem as Urandai Koodal Karuvur. The hero had left the heroine and gone in search of wealth. Now his task accomplished, whilst returning, he looks at his heart and utters these words. And the poem itself begins with a very interesting rhetoric as to what is the purpose of earning wealth. The explanation given in there is food for thought for all of us in this 21st century, where earning wealth is motivated by very selfish reasons. So why do we strive to earn wealth? கேழ்கேடு ஊன்றவும் கிழைஞர் ஆரவும் கேள் அல் கேளிர் கெளியினர் ஒழுகவும் ஆழ்வினைக்கு எதிரிய ஊக்கமோடு புகழ் சிறந்து goes the poem. One earns well to support suffering relatives, to feed them and better their lives, and draw close to us others who need our help. And this work of earning we have accomplished with great effort and enthusiasm. In the next para, elucidating on what kind of wealth the hero sings, ஆரங்கண்ணி அடுபோர் சோழர் அறம் கெழு நல் அவை உரந்தை அன்ன. I have earned hard to find fine precious jewels that resemble the beautiful city of Urandai, ruled by the Cholas, murderous in battle, and Aram Kelu Nal Avai, presiding over a just court. Then he comes to the Pandya city of Koodal, Aranpala Kadanda Murankoltane, Vada Vembin Validi Koodal, Nalangadi Narum Narunudal, நீழிருங்கூந்தல் மா அயோளோடு. Let us go, my heart, to the dark woman with her long tresses and her fine forehead, which gives out a fragrance that resembles the fragrance of the day markets of Koodal under the rule of the great Pandya Validi, who wears fresh garlands made of the neem and who has won many forts with his strong armies. Then comes Kodai's Karuvur. கடும்பகட்டு யானை நெடுந்தேர் கோதை திருமா வியல் நகர் கருவூர் முன்துறை தென்னீர் உயர்கரை குவைய தன்னான் பொருணை மணலினும் பலவே. Let me embrace her tightly, causing scars on my chest with her jewels. Let me embrace her many times more than the sands on the cool beaches of the Anporunai river that abuts the splendid city of Karuvur, belonging to Kodai, owning tall chariots and fierce arrogant elephants with their fierce huge trunks, throw men to the ground and kill them without missing their target. So Kuttuvan Kodai is also shown as ruling over the town of Karuvur, and here Avai Durasami Pillai also records the friendship that Kodai had with the chieftain of Gudirimalai known as Pittan Kotran. Pittan himself, a celebrated chieftain, his reputation having been sung by several Sangam poets, Avai Durasami Pillai records many interesting details about his clan, details garnered not from the Sangam poems themselves, but from the gazettes maintained by the Britishers of Coorg, Mysore and the Malabar regions, belonging to the early 1800s. Now these testify to the continuity of these hill clans through the ages, and if we were to see just one sample, still a hunter-gatherer society at that time, that is the beginning of the 19th century, living in the dense forests of Gudirimalai. Now Duraisamy Pillai also records how all the names were Sanskritized by then, with the western range being renamed as Sahayadri and the Gudirimalai itself as Sanjaparvadam. These forest regions were abundant with the wild boar. Now these boars dug trenches into the soil with their horns in order to unearth and feed on the tuber roots below. The Kuravar, the tribesmen, tracked the wild boar by observing the clouds of dust that these animals threw up while digging the trenches, and they used the trenches dug up by these wild boar to plant the seeds of the Tinai millet. And during the time of Pongal, this Tinai was harvested and used to cook the Pongal instead of rice, and this was cooked along with the milk of a wild cow known as Malaya, using sandalwood as fire logs. Imagine that. After Kuttu and Kode, in the 7th generation comes the Chera king of the elephant eye, Yane Katche Mandaran Cheral Irumburai. Having ruled between 125 and 150 Common Era, 4 Sangam poets have sung the praise of this king, who had a rather checkered history. Kurungozhiyur Kilar, Porundil Ilankiranar, Vadamavannakkan Perunchatanar and Kudalur Kilar have sung the praise of this king. Though these poets praise the king very highly in their poems, it should be taken with some reservation, points out KNS. During his time, both the Chola and the Pandya thrones were under the rule of powerful monarchs, and hence the Chera ruler could not have made much headway, and the Chera line had already started to show signs of exhaustion, he points out. Che was the actual name of this king who belonged to the Mantaran clan, and Irumbore referred to a line of kings who ruled from the regions of Porainadu, Seraman itself being an abbreviation of Serar Mahan, that is the sons of Serar. Duraisamy Pillai further elucidates the meaning of the epithet Yanaikan. The elephant, though very huge, has very small eyes that guide this wise animal with a phenomenal memory. And this name was attested to this king as he shared similar traits. Duraisamy Pillai very interestingly also points out how in the Aanemudi range of the Western Ghats abutting Travancore estates, there was a region known as Anakanjira that literally meant Yane Kansirai, elephant eye prison. And in the Valluvanadu regions of the Vellatri hills, there was an Anekan Kunnu, Yanekan Kundru, elephant hillock, and Porainadu lay sandwiched between these two hills. So again, a very suitable string of epithets went to form the name of this king, Seraman Yane Katche Mandaran Cheral Irumburai. In Purananuru poem 22, Kurungozhiyur Kilar sings, Ongu Kolliyur Aduporuna, Vela Nokin Viral Vencheye, Baliya Perume, Nin Varambayil Padaipe. O ruler of Kolli mountains, O protector of warriors, O great king desirous of victorious battles, and one with the elephant look, Mandaran Cheral Irumburai Ombiya Nade, Puttel Ulahattu Atru என கேட்டு வந்து இனிது கண்டிசின் பெருமை. O strong king, I heard that your country resembled the land of the celestials in the heavens, and I came to see it for myself, and here I am. You have endless wealth that you generously give away to the bards who sing your praise, so much so that they have no need to go anywhere else and sing anyone else's praise. Without tiring, your armies stay in other countries because you never rest. There is abundant rice in your country. வேறு புலத்து இருக்கும் தானையோடு சோறு நடத்தி நீ துயிஞ்சாய் மாறே. Though the poet's words imply that the king was constantly at war, because of which his country was overflowing with wealth, in actuality, the king had to keep waging wars just to protect his country from the powerful neighbors, the Pandyas and the Cholas, and having engaged with the mighty Pandyan Nedunchezhiyan at Talayalanganam, this king was imprisoned by the Pandya ruler. There is an interesting incident of how Irumburai escaped from prison that is described in detail by Duraisamy Pillai, of how Irumburai made use of a secret passage that was concealed to look like a moat and made good his escape. He overcame the prison guards with the help of his spies and returned to his kingdom to rule. This incident is recorded in Purananuru poem 17 by Kurungozhiyur Kilar. தென்குமரி வடபெருங்கல் குணகுட கடலாவெல்லை குன்றுமலை காடு நாடு ஒன்றுபட்டு வழிமொழிய. From southern Kumari to the huge mountains in the north, from the seas in the west to the seas in the east, all the land, the mountains and waters sing your praise, O Lord. Tan Tondiyur Aduporana, O ferocious Lord who rules over the cool port city of Tondi, நீடுகுழி அகப்பட்ட பீடு உடைய எருள் முன்பின் கோடுமுற்றிய கொல்களிரு நிலைகலங்க குழி கொன்று கிளைப்புகழ தலை கூடியாங்கு நீ பட்ட அரு முன்பின் பெருந்தளர்ச்சி பலர் ஒப்ப பிரிது சென்று. Like a killer elephant, huge and mighty, that fell into a pit, but ruined it with its long tusks, and escaped and rejoined its herd. O mighty Chera king, with great strength you escaped from the prisons of the Pandyas, overcoming many hurdles, making those who despaired whilst you were in captivity rejoice. Idiyana murangu murasin Varaya ஈகை குடவர் கோவே. O king who rules Kudanadu, your generosity is without limits and your drums roar like thunder. The poet Purundil Ilangiranar in another Puram poem 53 records of the victory of this Chera king over a territory called Vilambil, and the poem goes, Mudirvar ippi mutta varmanal கதிர்விடு மணியின் கண்பொரு மாடத்து இலங்கு வளைமகளிர் தெற்றி ஆடும் விலங்கு சீர் விலங்கில் விழுமம் கொன்ற களங்கொள் யானை கடுமான் பொறைய. The town of Vilangil, with long stretches of sand, where bejeweled women wearing beautiful bangles played tetri, that is a game of stones that today we call sotangal, on the corridors of beautiful glittering mansions. The whole town was destroyed by your army. Viripin ahalum tohuppin enjum mammar நெஞ்சத்து எம்மனோர்க்கு ஒருதலை கைமுற்றல் நின் புகழே. O Porayan, if I sing your praise in full, it will be too long. If I try to shorten it, I may miss out on a lot. Those like me with bewildered hearts cannot do justice to sing your praise. செருத்து செய்யுள் செய்சென்னாவின் வெறுத்த கேள்வி விளங்கு புகழ் கபிலன் இன்று உளன் ஆயின் நன்று மண் என்றனின் ஆடுகொள் வரிசைக்கு ஒப்ப பாடுவன் மண்ணால் பகைவரை கடப்பே. We heard you say, if only Kapilan were alive today, he whose fame was radiant and knowledge immense, he with the eloquent tongue, could produce perfect verses in an instant, and how wonderful that would be. Yet here I am, and I will suitably sing of your might in battle, and how you overwhelmed your enemies. Now, Kapilar was one of the most renowned of the Sangam poets, a prolific poet having contributed more than 200 poems to the Sangam corpus. His fame seems to have been established even at that early time, so much so that Ilangiranar acknowledges Kapilar's stature without any ego. Kudalur Kirar, a Kirar or landlord of Kudalur, was another poet par excellence who has sung on this king. Kudalur was a small province in Palghat Taluk in today's Kerala, points out Avai Duraisamy Pillai, and in one of his poems in the Kurundugai collection he sings, Uro Nandru Man Marandai. The poet records the town of Marandai, which was probably home to the Mandaran clan. Duraisamy Pillai also brings attention to the hearsay that Kudalur Kirar compiled the Ainguru Nuru, one of the Pathupattu works, at the request of Mandaran Cheral. Now, Kudalur Kirar's Purananuru poem on this king is rather unusual in that it is the first in the Sangam corpus giving a detailed description of the planetary position of the stars and their astronomical relevance. In Purananuru poem 229, the poet makes a prediction about the demise of this king based on the planetary position of the stars and some bad omens that he witnesses. And the poem that falls under the Thurai, that is the subdivision Anandapayul, which is sung at the loss of one's hero, begins, Aadu iyal alar kuttattu aarirul arai iravil. In the pitch black darkness of midnight, Aadu iyal, referring to the goat star, that is Mesham, the poet goes on to describe the position of several stars in the sky in verse and continues, கணையேறி பரப்ப காலெதிர்ப்பு பொங்கி ஒரு மீன் விழுந்தென்றால் விசும்பினானே. Like a light to this earth, surrounded by water, a fiery star fell roaring, moved by heavy winds. அது கண்டு யாமும் பிறரும் பல்வேறு இரவலர் பறையிசை அருவி நல்நாட்டு பொருணன் நோயலன் ஆயின் நன்றுமன் தில்லென அழிந்த நெஞ்சம் மடிவுளம் பரப்ப அஞ்சினம். எழுநாள் வந்தன்று இன்றே. On seeing that I, like many others who had come to seek help from this king, felt despair in our hearts and hoped that the lord of the country, where the fall of the waterfalls resembled the roar of his drums, should live without disease. Alas, the 7th day has come. மைந்துடை யானை கை வைத்து உறங்கவும் தின்பினி முரசம் கண் கிழிந்து உருளவும். As the mighty elephant sleeps on its folded trunk, and the royal drum, tightly tied, has burst its eye and rolls on the ground, காவல் வெண்குடை கால் பறிந்து உலரவும் கால் இயல் கலிமா கதியின்றி வைகவும் மேலோர் உலகம் எய்தினன். The protective white parasol has snapped at its base. The horses, swift as wind, now stand still, as alas, the great Chera king has gone to the upper world. Thus came the end of Seraman Yanekatche Mandarancheral Irumburai, and we will continue with the line of the early Cheras in the next episode. Vanakkam.